What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here. Appreciate you. If you want to send me a tip via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, that helps me to feel like this shit is worth it at all. Super appreciate you doing that. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead, because this week is not actually a super busy week, but it is a good week for us to think outside the box and get some new ideas or some maybe off the wall ideas about how to navigate difficult circumstances. So here's what I'm thinking about. So a primary thing that has been going on for some time now, for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks now, is Mars opposite to Saturn, right? So we've got Mars in Libra opposite to Saturn in Aries. Now this is separating at this point. Saturn is retrograde and getting ready to move back into Pisces for a little while, and Mars is pushing forward, right? So we've already seen that, but they're still in orb, and there's still some pressure that has been sort of ongoing there for a little while that's probably still present in the situation. You're probably not at the apex of that, but still navigating what is downstream from whatever big difficulty that was, right? So that pressure is ongoing, and there's still something there. You know, those are the malefics. Those are the no-no boys, the ones who want to cause problems and chaos and disruption and that kind of thing, right? So speaking of chaos, the other planet that I typically think of when I think of chaos or disruption or unexpected things, surprises, that sort of stuff, is Uranus. Uranus is currently in Gemini, and at 1 degree of Gemini. So very early in the sign of Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So Mercury also full of shenanigans for the past few weeks. It's funny, somebody recently told me that I had promised them that Mercury was going to be forward and that they were going to find their lost object. And I didn't promise that they were going to find their lost object, but I did promise that Mercury was going to be moving forward and therefore less shenanigan-y. This person did not find their lost object and felt away and wanted me to know that. You know, Mercury is now moving forward, and it has not gained any real steam yet, but is finally moving forward. So there is like maybe an angle on the issue here in some kind of way, which to my mind, all right, so this Mercury is in early Leo, making a sextile to Mars in Libra, right? So a sextile is going to be a complementary relationship. The air of Libra and the fire of Leo, they want to work together and create something more noticeable, more dynamic than either of them would be in isolation. Now this Mercury is particularly interesting this week, not only because it's ruling Uranus, but also because it's ruling the new moon in Virgo, which we're going to have at 0 degrees of Virgo. So that new moon in Virgo, which is going to happen on Friday evening, is square to Uranus in Gemini, and both of those are in Mercury's signs, and Mercury is making this sextile to Mars in Libra. So there is a sense here that the grindy, difficult pressure informs a new way to think about things, a way to think outside the box when it comes to solving a particular, especially practical, hands-on kind of problem. So, hey, by the way, if you would like me to do a reading for you, you can go to zambonifunk.com. I do readings. We can do a 60-minute together. We can do a 10-minute where it's like this kind of format where I'm just kind of vamping and talking to you about whatever is particular in your situation. If you want to go to zambonifunk.com, then it's a party over there. So check that out. You know, part of what I'm thinking here is, so Uranus in Gemini is going to be very good for, you know, future technology and for new and different ways of communicating with one another or conceiving of ideas, right? And this Mercury sextile to Mars, Mars is the action planet. Mars is the one who wants to go forward and to make something happen in some kind of way. Mars is the one that creates the world in his own image, right? And so and Mars is not comfortable right now, not only because Mars is opposite to Saturn, but because Mars is in exile in Libra. This is to say that Mars is as far away from home as possible and not necessarily that good at doing the Mars things. I frequently talk about Mars in Libra as Mars the general, the soldier in a cocktail party. Like, bro, I need you to chill out. Like, why are you, this is far too aggressive for the very nice time that we are having with each other. Can't you see how nice and fun this is? Why did you bring all these knives? This kind of situation, right? So this is, but the thing about this is that this is very diplomatic. This is very good for being in a situation that feels like combat in some kind of way and being like, okay, we're going to talk about this and we are going to win with words right now, right? Mercury and Mars are working together in this complementary kind of way. Mercury in Leo is going to be very forward, going to be very much like, okay, here's what I'm thinking about and here is my whole face about the issue, right? So Mercury in Leo, that's the sun sign. So the sun is, and the sun this week is actually going to move into Virgo. So this is our last week of the sun in Leo, but we got the sun in Leo for a little while, for most of the week still here. Very good for the sun things, for the sort of like, look at me, notice how glorious I can be, and sitting in a seat of sovereignty of some sort. Like, this is a very good week for sort of centering oneself, or one of my favorite axioms is the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. This is the sun in Leo is very good at focusing, seeing what is the main thing and keeping that focus right there on the main thing, right? And so that is going to influence this Mercury Mars situation where we're like, okay, that's the main thing. How are we going to navigate that? How are we going to deal with that? Then once the new moon in Virgo happens, so the sun is going to shift into Virgo, and as soon as that happens and the moon comes by and we get this new moon, right? So when that happens, then there is this sense that, especially square to Uranus, the normal thing is not going to work. Mars wants to be forward and aggressive, and that's not going to do the job here. We're going to need something that's a little bit nicer, that's a little bit more polite, that is a little more handshaky and a little less cutthroat with that kind of thing. Cutthroat in the lawyery, like, I'll kill you with this contract that you didn't read properly kind of way, right? Which, Mars or Mercury in Leo is opposite to Pluto in Aquarius. Very good for saying something loudly and then concealing hidden messages behind it, that kind of thing. So where your wordsmithing can get you into the spot, into the nooks and crannies that the axe won't fit into. This is a really good week for getting into that spot and saying, precision of language is going to be a really good Mercury Mars, right? So Mars is going to be sharp blades, this kind of thing, right? And then Mercury is going to be our words in some kind of way. Sometimes when Mars and Mercury get together, we can have angry words or fighting words or something like that. And that is totally what we see going on here. But it feels to me more like a chess match than like out and out argumentation, right? Like, there's something here about, like, it feels a little calmer. It feels like there is something here about strategy that's really important. And this is a week for surprises. Keep them guessing in some kind of way. Maybe keep yourself guessing. It might be a good time to run an experiment. Try something that you haven't necessarily verified, but that you have a hunch about. I've been reading Ursula Le Guin a lot recently, and just because I love Ursula Le Guin so much. And when I came back from North Star, I got a copy of The Left Hand of Darkness. It was given to me. And in that book, there is a fortune-telling sequence that feels so true and real, but also has the feeling of a hunch. And I feel like this is a really good week to, when you get that hunch, make that bet. There is, because like the moon's going to be coming through before the moon makes it into Leo and then Virgo to do that new moon. The moon this week is going to be hanging out in Cancer with both benefics. That's real lucky. Like, this might be a moment where on that hunch, you might be able to get something that wouldn't be available to you if you were to move only in a straightforward manner. Does that make sense? Leave me a comment. Let me know how this lands for you.